Well, it's almost that time of year again that you either love or hate because you're either going to get a nice tax return or have a tax balance owing. Of course, I'm speaking about tax season here that in Canada opens from February 21st. So depending on when you see this video, it may or may not have already started. And this is all the way up until April 30th, which is the tax deadline in Canada. Now, when most people think of tax time, they think complicated and in need of an accountant to avoid making any mistakes. But in reality, most people are more than able to do their personal tax return themselves right from their home computer in less than an hour, and for free even, as we'll be discussing in today's video. And once you're done watching this video and know how to file your tax return, make sure to also check out my other handful of videos that I made specifically for this tax season that covers over 20 tax credits and deductions, as well as how the Canadian tax system even works in the first place, which is really important to understand. So with that said, we'll be using a platform called Wealthsimple Tax. I'm not associated with Wealthsimple in any way for this video. I just wanted to provide some value for anyone who might be struggling this tax season. So if you do find value in today's video, all that I ask in return is that you drop a like and consider subscribing to the channel as well. So with that said, let's get into it. All right, so once you log into Wealthsimple, this is what you're going to be presented with. You're going to be presented with the different service offerings that Wealthsimple has to offer. In this case, though, we're going to click on tax, which is the one at the bottom here. Now, it's going to ask you which tax year do you want to file for in this case. And we can see, 2017 to 2019, 2020, 21, or 22 return. Now, the reason why the 2023 return isn't available just yet here is because I'm filming this preemptively for all of you before tax season actually opens for the 2023 season, which once again is February 21st. I'm filming in mid-January. So we're going to click on 2022, but for 2023 and future years, everything's going to be the same nonetheless. So we'll click on 2022 return here. It is loading the information. We will choose Griffin right here. And I had actually filled in a bunch of stuff actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete everything so that we can restart fresh from here. All right, so the way Wealthsimple Tax works is that you essentially have two columns here. You have this column right here that's going to indicate the federal refund, as well as, in this case, Quebec, because I'm a Quebec resident. But if you were in another province, it would say Saskatchewan or Alberta refund. And then we have the column to the right, which is much larger and much longer, which is where you're going to be inputting all of your information, from your personal information to identify you and to connect with CRA, as well as also each element that you want to add to your return. So as you're inputting new information into your return, the federal refund as well as the provincial refund is going to update in real time as you're adding and subtracting different elements. So let's look at that right now. In this case, we can see the About You section is missing tons of information. So I'm not going to waste our time going and inputting all of this, but you're going to input information such as your name, last name, social insurance number, date of birth, as well as preferred language. Moving down, you can then input your net file access code if that's something that you want to do. We'll just skip that right now. And then you have to add your Canadian mailing address. All of this is standard, by the way, information that any online tax service would require you to submit. So you would put in your street number, street name, very simple information. From here, also about your residence. So a couple of quick questions here, most of them being yes, no answers. So in which province or territory did you live? December 31st, 2022. For 23, it would say 2023. You input your province as well as other information, right? Did your address change? In which province do you currently live? And so forth. The next section here, or block in the About You section, is the you and your family. So marital status on December 31st, 2023. And then also, did your marital status change throughout the year, and do you have any dependents? If you clicked on yes, for example, you would have a couple more information, and all of this is going to update in real time depending on what your personal situation is. Now, from here, the next section is miscellaneous. Again, a bunch of just standard yes, no questions that you can take the time to read here and input yes or no, right? Things such as, are you a person registered under the Indian Act? Were you confined to a prison? All of this information is case by case, so we're not going to spend time looking at this. From here, going on down, I have the Revenue Quebec section because, again, I am a Quebec resident, so I need to input information for them as well. And depending on the province that you're in, there are going to be, a couple different things that you may be eligible for or not. For example, the Solidarity Tax Credit is something that's applicable to Quebec residents, as well as the prescription drug insurance plan is something that only applies to Quebec residents. If you don't have a private drug insurance plan, you're obligated to pay into this. All right, moving on, CRA and Revenue Quebec, my account. Couple more just information about your email address and things to contact you. So that's what all of the About You section is about. It's really simple. It's just all personal information. And then we get to the next main section. So we have autofill your return as well as manage your tax forms. So one thing that's kind of cool about Wealthsimple Tax here, and I'm not sure if other tax systems do this as well, but this is something that Wealthsimple Tax does pretty well, is that you can connect directly with My CRA in order to save time in filling your tax return. So if you work for an employer that's going to be submitting tax files or tax documents, I should say, on your behalf, like T4s or maybe investment income, things of that nature, most of the time it's going to be sitting and available in your My CRA account to begin with. So you can actually connect, and by clicking right here, connect with My CRA account, it's going to link to that account and then pull your tax documents into Wealthsimple Tax and input stuff automatically. So that's a way that you can save time and energy here. We're not going to do it. I'm just going to show you how to do it manually, but that is something that you can do. Additionally, you can also connect into different crypto exchanges, a bunch of different exchanges. That was new for 2022. And you can essentially connect to any crypto brokerage that's available on the Canadian exchange, such as, say, Wealthsimple Crypto, Coinbase, Newton, all of the above that are registered with the Canadian security exchanges are going to be eligible for this as well. That can just save you time and energy calculating your gains and losses within crypto. That doesn't apply to you though, not to worry. So now we are at the main section, being manage your tax forms. So the way Wealthsimple Tax does this is that you essentially search for different tax forms relative to you that you want to put in it. So I'm seeing right here actually that I need to put my personal information. So I'll do that and I'll come right back. Okay, we are back. I input in my name and other information, and now it is not grayed out anymore. This section, we can actually go ahead and search for things. So when clicking on this, it's going to present you with some of the most relevant tax forms that people utilize, right? Things such as the T4, as we can see here, which anyone who works a job and has employment income is going to have T4s or RL1s if you're in Quebec. Other things such as, employment expenses, RRSP contributions and deductions. All of these are modular essentially. You can pick and choose what you want to add to your tax return. Things such as donations and gifts, medical expenses, pension, retirement, and other income, tuition and education amounts, right? The list goes on. There are hundreds of things that you can add to your tax return. Of course, we're not going to go through all of this. This would take forever. However, make sure to check out my video 20 tax deductions and credits that you can watch right here. I'll link it down below so you don't miss out on some of the more common tax credits and deductions to lower your taxable income. All right, so in this case, we're going to look at a couple standard examples that most of you are going to have on your return, such as say a T4. All right, so we're going to input T4 and click on employment income. And now, as you can see, it added this block essentially to our tax return. So from here, you just fill it in the exact way that the information is presented on your T4 that's given to you by your employer. And again, had you connected directly with My CRA, most of this would already be done on your behalf, but it's always good to still look over everything yourself. So in this case, we'll put, Walmart, for example, Walmart Incorporated, just as an example. And you'll go ahead and input all of your information. All right, we'll say you're Quebec resident. Section 14, box 14 is your income, right? So in this case, we're seeing if I made $70,000, as you can see, the federal owing updated in real time. So on that $70,000 worth of income, it's saying, hey, federal owing, you owe $7,712. Why did the provincial not update? Well, that's because the provincial version of a T4 in Quebec is the RL1 slip. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing, right? We'll add 70,000 and oh, there we go. We can see that Quebec owing, in this case, the provincial, jumped up to 9,017. So of course you would go ahead on your own and input everything else. If you had any, pension contributions or disability benefits that you paid for, all of this is going to be input in these different boxes. All right, from here, let's say you made an RRSP contribution, which counts, of course, as a tax deduction. So we'll go back up to the top, we'll search RRSP, click on RRSP contributions, and then you input information about this section, right? So RRSP 2022 deduction limit, this is going to be case by case depending on your situation. Let's say our deduction limit was $31,050, just as an example. And then we will input that, yes, we did make a contribution. All right. We'll say it was a contribution from, say March 2nd to December 31st. And it was in the amount of, let's say, an $8,000 contribution, right? This is just an example once again. Well, by doing this $8,000 contribution, we can see right here that this counts as a deduction. And what happened? Well, it updated in real time how much we owed federally and provincially. So in this case, there was a decrease of amount owing federally of $1,369. and as well as a decrease of 1,600. The reason it says plus is because it's essentially more money in your pocket, but we can see these values are less than what they were, right? If we delete that and put it back to zero, it updates those amounts. All right, so we'll leave it at $8,000. And now from here, that's really how it works. It's just going to add different blocks to this modular tax return. And then at the end, you'll be able to review and optimize. But let's go ahead and add one more, let's say. All right, let's say you had some investment income, right? Most people who are trading stocks and stuff have investment income, such as a T5 if you're using a stock brokerage and you're incurring dividend or interest income, things of that nature. Your stock brokerage is going to send you a T5. All right, so let's say in this case, you had, well, let's say Wealth Simple was where you were trading stocks, all right? So that is the name of the payer. And I'm assuming 24 is, amount of dividends. All right, so let's say you made $650 worth of dividends. We'll input that there. And now once again, we can see that there was a change essentially in your Quebec owing. All right, so it's really as simple as that, truly. It's you're going to be adding different sections to it. You can go through all of the different categories, right? Pension, education, or if you know what you need to add, right? Maybe if you bought an EV vehicle, you're going to input that. If you had an incentive, other things such as capital gains and losses, exams, things such as your tuition payments, all of that's going to go on there. Interest paid on different loans, interest paid on student loan debt, and then also even say rental properties, right? If you have some rental properties, you'll put rental income. If you're a person who works for yourself, you're going to use self-employment income, which is a T2125. So you would add that right there. And you can input all of the information about your small business. For example, if you operate under the personal level and not a corporation, this is where you would input all of that, right? Let's say you made $40,000 from your side hustle. Well, there you go. And you can add all of the expenses from that small business. Okay, now once you think you've added all of the right sections to your tax return, we're gonna go all the way down to the review and optimize section, which allows you, it says, we'll double check your return to make sure you're maximizing your refunds. We'll click on that and it's gonna give you a bunch of errors, warnings, and maybe other suggestions, right? In this case, I made this super poorly. I didn't input everything, so of course there's going to be errors. In this case though, let's take a look, right? The first one says there's a problem with something you entered. You can find the problem by clicking on the red numbers in the sidebar. All right, so in the About You, of course, there was a bunch of things I didn't input. And what about in the tax forms? Well, the T4 slip, we can see here that there are critical things that we didn't input, right? These two boxes, let's say 0.00, just for sake of example. Well, now that error is going to be gone. But as you can see, all the errors are highlighted in red. Now we also had other things, right? Such as different warnings. So this is going to tell you stuff such as if you moved, please change your address. And all of this is just information you're going to want to take the time to look over yourself so you're not missing anything. And then also some suggestions, right? Maybe some different credits or things you might be eligible for, or things that are going to be highlighted here and that you're going to want to look over. Once you're happy with everything though, you come all the way down and it's going to give you a summary of everything, including the amounts owing or the refund that you're going to get, depending on if you had already periodically paid a bunch of income tax throughout the year, which most employees do. It's deducted right from your paychecks. All right, so it's going to give you all that information, tell you how much contribution room you'll have for 2023 based on your previous as well as new contribution room combined together. And then from here, you can go all the way down and submit it. Right now, we can't submit it because there are errors, but if all the errors are accounted for, you can click on submit. It's going to submit it to the province as well as the federal, depending on what province you're in. And that's really it. There's also going to be a pop-up box asking for a donation, but you don't have to pay anything if you don't want to. You can do this completely for free. Pretty sure last year if you donated, or not really donate, but if you give $20, I think it was, if you were to get audited, they would give you support and help you through that process. So it could be well worth it depending on your situation and if you feel comfortable with that. And that's it. Wealthsimple Tax is really just such a simple tool that anyone can use this year to file their taxes on their own without needing additional help from professionals. And most people think filing taxes is overly complicated, but it really doesn't need to be, as we just looked over in this video. Thanks again for watching. Good luck this tax season. And don't forget to check out these videos right here to learn more about taxes.